Okay, kids, it's time for another episode of the Fueled by Weird podcast, the only podcast where weird's all I've got, that and my sweet style. I'm Chris Daly, and today I have the pleasure of chatting once again with Jessica Maison. Jessica, how's it going today?
It's going great. Got through the day. I'm a little sick, but other than that, I'm having a great time.
It is that kind of year again. It kind of just stinks.
Yep. So if you hear a cough drop in my mouth, that's what's going on, guys. So sorry.
Totally fine. I'll allow it this time.
All right, thanks.
Okay, I'd like to welcome you back to the show. I'm so glad to have you back. I'm very excited to talk spooky season, monsters, and all sorts of fun stuff like that.
hmm
But before we get started, as you know, on my show, I like to start things off with an icebreaker question. So today's icebreaker question is, what is something your mother or father did that you find yourself doing?
Oh my goodness. Well, I would probably say that something my mother does and still does, but is I get really amped up about Halloween and
Okay.
decorate the whole house and
Yeah.
usually buy too many random decorations. And then something my dad does is he always likes to go by the water, and I also always like to go by the water.
Nice.
Those are the good things. I'm not I'm not going to share the bad things, but I know I do too.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think my wife has that exact same problem. Every time Halloween season comes along, she'll buy up all the little tiny decorations. So she'll have so many, we don't even have the space to put all of them. So
hmm
sometimes we'll just make stuff fit, or sometimes certain decorations get rotated. So we put this one out last year, so this one gets to come out this year.
Oh, that's a good idea. I have managed not to do it this year, but it's because my mom sent me one.
Ah,
So I don't know if I didn't actually not do it.
that's fair.
Yeah, but
I think for
it,
me, the thing that I do, my dad used to have this really bad habit of he would mishear something you say on purpose just to kind of
mm,
razz you, give you a hard time. And it used to make the grandkids super annoyed. And it was just kind of
yeah,
funny to watch. And he just thought it was funny just to tick them off on purpose. I don't know why. I think it's just, it must have been a grandparent thing where, I can send your kid home mad to you and you can deal with them being mad. He just
yeah,
thought he was funny doing that. So sometimes my youngest, she'll say something and I'll say something, I'll mishear her on purpose, and it makes her really mad. But it's a good way to kind of keep my dad around. So
yeah.
it's
That's
fun
nice.
times. Yeah. All right. So it is that time of year that we want to
hmm
talk about spooky stuff.
Yeah.
So what are some things you do? What are some traditions you have? What are some things you do that get you into the mood for spooky season?
Well, I usually have certain movies that have to be watched.
Okay.
And now a lot of them are more younger, so I can watch them with my kids. So, you
Yeah,
got all the Tim Burton, basically,
sure.
Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, Nightmare Before Christmas. You got to watch all your movies.
Yeah,
Ghostbusters, of course, the original
of
one.
course.
And Hocus Pocus, we always save for my daughter's birthday because she loves it, and
Nice.
it's in the middle of October. And then I also watch scary ones. Now, I don't usually rewatch scary ones. I like
Okay.
to watch new scary ones.
Kind of like
All
a
right.
one and done thing.
Yeah. Unless
Okay.
I love, I mean, like Alien, I'll watch again, but
Sure.
it has to, but like usually I don't revisit them on purpose. I might,
Yeah,
I do when I'm like, oh, you haven't watched this, we got to watch it. But I usually like to watch new ones.
that's
So
fair.
I just watched Oddity, which was my latest new one that I loved.
Oh,
So
nice.
I don't know what I'm going to watch next, but yeah. So I always watch horror. I do a combination of the more cozy, spooky, and then, hardcore spooky.
Family friendly spooky and super duper spooky.
Yeah.
That's a
And
good
I mean,
plan.
and I decorate the house and try to go to some kind of pumpkin festival and I don't know, just certain little things like that.
Nice. Yeah, we kind of do that too, just because, it's spooky time all the time at my house because that's
Yeah,
just
right.
how it goes. Um, I'm not super into it, but my wife and my two daughters, they would do it all year round if they could. So,
hmm
I've got kind of the little bit of a spread with my kids. My oldest just turned 17 and my youngest is almost 9. And there are some of the scary movies she likes to watch. But there's some that are a little bit too much for her. So we kind of do the same thing. We have our family friendly spooky movies that we watch, some of the cartoon
Mm,
ones too, like the Garfield Halloween and stuff like that. Or then
yeah,
we'll save the other stuff for after my youngest goes to bed. And
for sure.
we also do the pumpkin patch thing too, but it's kind of a bummer to me because it seems like it's less about the pumpkins and more about like the experience, which is kind of cool because every year they kind of come up with new stuff for the kids to do, but it
Mhm.
gets crazy expensive to go do that stuff.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
Yeah.
You can just get the pumpkin
Yeah.
and come home and make a big fun day of it. Like,
Yeah.
we do the carving and it's really great. Except
Mhm.
in out here in Southern California, it's like you can carve the day before or they're dead
Yeah, oh
because it's
yeah.
so hot. Yeah, it's
Sure.
so hot. So it's a bummer. That is a
Yeah.
bummer part.
We don't do the carving just because my wife doesn't like the smell of the insides. So we
Mm,
actually, our tradition is we just paint pumpkins. So we'll
okay.
just paint them whatever design we feel like doing, and then just stick them on the porch. That way, they tend to last a little bit longer, not a whole lot longer.
Oh, that's nice.
Of course, this time of year, for some reason, it seems to be unreasonably warm. I mean, I'm sure the exception is with you guys where it's being warm basically all of the time. But yeah, I
It's
think today I think it's 75, almost 80, which is
pretty warm.
it's abnormally warm for this time of year. But I think we have that today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, it's going to drop pretty significantly. So maybe we'll finally get the spooky season weather we need. I don't know, but we'll
Yeah.
see. Okay, so you mentioned horror movies, either the family friendly ones or the super duper scary ones. What are some scary movie recommendations that you might have for the listeners out there?
Okay. Well, new ones or older ones,
Any
or
kind,
does it
doesn't
matter?
matter.
Well, I do highly recommend watching Oddity. I just watched it. It's on Shudder.
Okay.
And that one was a lot of fun and they got the tension and the scares really well done. They got this atmosphere that's really creepy. It's basically like a twin sister gets murdered
Okay.
and not her other twin, her twin, is blind and she works in an oddity shop, but she collects like these cursed objects,
Hmm.
and she kind of becomes fixated on getting vengeance against the sister's killers and with these objects. And
Oh
there's
wow.
yeah, and it's just an kind of I call it like a master class in using an object and not having to even move that much, but having it be in the room, having it just be a presence that it was just creepy. The whole movie's creepy. I mean, there's a few things I don't love about it, but I mostly like it. Um,
That's fair.
yeah, and then I'm just like another spooky one that I watched, if you're into like a Frankenstein story, was Birth Rebirth, and I think that's also on Shudder, but I'm not
Okay.
sure. And that is kind of it's not a retelling of Frankenstein, but it's like a telling of it involving like a mother and another woman and a
Okay.
child that dies. And it's just really intense and great. I don't know if scary is the right word, but it's like, it's creepy. And
That's
then
fair.
the classic, trying to think of like I love like all the classic ones too. I mean, obviously like Scream,
Oh yeah.
and Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Get Out, The Shining, all of that, I'll watch
Yeah.
all that. Yeah.
The Shining, I think, will be a good one this year. My oldest has kind of been bugging us for a while to watch that one, and I think probably this year's I mean, my oldest just finished watching all three Terrifier movies with my wife, so I think The Shining's
I
probably
can't
gonna be nothing compared to those.
I, I can't watch the Terrifier because that face is so scary to me. I'm like, there's no
Yeah.
way that I will make it. I have a limited like it, and now also the Terrifier is known for the kill scenes, and I have like a limited like I'm okay with the kill scene, but with gore is like it's a good balance. It has to have a good balance for me,
Yeah.
Like the gore has to make sense, and once it goes over,
Sure.
so I'm not sure, and I'm not saying that that's what the Terrifier does. I just can't watch that guy's face.
I don't blame you, and I've not seen
Yeah,
any of them, but from what I've heard, yeah, it's a lot.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like I do prefer a movie. I mean, I like to, you get this. I like a slasher movie. I like the killer's coming
Yeah.
to get you movie.
Hmm.
But I just if as long as he's not too like sadistic, like there's a level I don't know I don't know if I'm like a 6 on the sadistic 10, 1 out of 10, you know.
Yeah,
If it goes over a 6, I'm kind of like that's too much for me and I don't enjoy it because
that's
I
fair.
don't know. I think it's because I start to actually think, what if this really happens to like so many horrible things happen to people? I'm
Yeah.
like, now I'm watching some fake person go through this thing that's, gonna happen. But yeah, shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. Like I mentioned before, I'm not a huge fan of horror movies, but like if it's something that makes kind of messes with your brain a little bit, that's
Yeah.
one that I'm kind of interested in. Like like the Saw movies. I like those just because they kind of mess with your brain and they're really a lot more psychological stuff. So
Hmm.
ones like that I'll make exceptions for. But like the slasher stuff I'm not super into. And it's weird because like my youngest daughter thinks the Scream movies are great and she loves the Chucky movie, the Child's Play movies, but
Yeah.
she can't handle Beetlejuice. And I think that's kind of crazy.
Well,
But
it's 'cause he's
you know,
creepy. He's a little creepy. If you don't,
It's
yeah.
not even Beetlejuice that bugs her.
What?
It's when
I mean, I like Beetlejuice, but yeah.
yeah, it's when Alec Baldwin's character turns his face inside out.
Yeah, that is gross.
That
That is
part
gross.
creeps her out. But I was like, you can watch Child's Play, you can watch Chucky, you can watch Scream, but this is what bothers you? Okay,
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean, and we haven't got it. I mean, I like stuff like Babadook, Let the Right One In, Hereditary, and
Yeah.
Relic, like all those movies that are playing with a. The Smile was really good too, the first one. I don't know about
Mhm.
Smile 2, but they're
Yeah.
playing with this psychological thing and making it physical. I've always really liked that in
Yeah.
horror. So yeah.
Yeah,
And
I liked Babadook until the end of it.
well, yeah. I mean,
My wife got so scared of the Babadook she refuses to finish the movie. And I said,
oh,
you have
you should watch the end of
I
that
told her, I'm
movie.
like, you have to finish it because spoiler alert, it ends kind of anticlimactically, kind of. And what you think is
It,
scary is actually not really super scary. So you really should just finish it. And she's like, no, I'm petrified. I will not.
I understand because the Babadook is a boogeyman character, and
Yeah,
nothing scares me more than a boogeyman character. Like
sure.
in every single movie that I've watched, the ones there's literally a movie that I won't say out loud right now because
Okay,
I
that's
watched it
fair.
this year.
Yeah.
And it it got me so bad because I'm watching with my husband and it was like boring, boring. It seemed boring because it was like a found footage kind of thing, a film within a
Okay.
film, filmmakers finding someone's old footage and it's about a urban legend, kind of like that. And I was like, this movie's not that scary. It's scary, but it's not that scary. But it was a boogeyman, so I'm like, I'm gonna get scared.
Yeah.
And at the end, my husband left, and there was like this final scene. It was the worst. It was the worst. It was the
Oh
opposite of
man.
the reason I brought it up is the opposite of the Babadook. It
Yeah.
just made it so worse. And I was like, oh my God. And maybe someday I'll say the name of the film, but
Okay.
I still get afraid of it. So the ones I don't
Fair.
like are like when you're in your room trying to go to sleep and then you think about it and you're like, is that possible? Could that happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's why your wife doesn't like the Babadook because
That's that's
yeah,
fair.
because it
She also didn't like the noise he made either. That kind of
oh,
freaked her out
no.
real bad too.
The insecty noise, yeah. I
Yeah,
still
the yeah.
I just thought it was really original and I thought it was an
Yeah.
interesting way to deal with like being isolated as a mother. So I liked all that. I didn't the ending for me, I'm not gonna say or ruin, wasn't my favorite part about it, but
Yeah.
I do like a movie where it takes you through like something pretty scary but leaves you some comfort at the end.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that because I want to be scared while I'm watching something, not 2 days later when I'm trying to go
Yeah.
to sleep or I'm like
Yeah.
and I'm having like an
Yeah.
existential crisis. Like why? Yeah, so for sure.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
And when you put it that way, it kind of makes a little bit more sense to me now because yeah, the ending was it went from being really super scary to all of a sudden not being really that scary. So that makes kind of sense.
Yeah, the
Um,
ending. The
yeah,
ending matters in horror. The
it
ending for
really
sure
does.
matters in horror.
It's super important.
Yeah.
You need to stick the landing or else you could ruin the whole movie.
And you have to be careful with the twist because like if you do go
Yeah.
too far, people get really like feel ripped off and pissed off and yeah. So
Yeah.
like I don't know.
I know for me, one of the ones that's almost unmentionable for me, but it's again, I'm not a big horror movie fan, but one of my favorites that creeps me out to my soul is The Strangers. And
Oh yeah.
I don't mean the new one because I don't know if you've seen the new one, but it was
Not the one in the theater that was just in the
yeah,
theater. The
it was
original Strangers.
the original one. That
Yeah.
one creeped me out so bad just because the
Yep.
whole, why'd you do this? Because you're home. Like
Yeah.
I told my oldest daughter she wants to watch it, and I said, if you watch this movie, you will never stay home by yourself again. So you
Yeah.
really can't watch this movie. And
It's it's a terrifying movie.
oh yeah,
Like, yeah.
absolutely. And it's kind of, the whole he has the boogeyman essentially aesthetic
Yeah.
there, and it was just horrifying. And because and I never saw any of the sequels because I heard the sequels weren't very good. Um,
No, but that first one's scary.
yeah.
I didn't watch the sequels either because I'm gonna tell you it happened in the middle of that movie in The Strangers.
Okay.
Because yes, I also was traumatized by The Strangers.
Hmm.
But when the friend comes,
Oh yeah.
and I was just like, why?
Yeah.
And you knew what was gonna happen.
But yeah, so with The Strangers, I was excited about the new one. So my wife and I went to go see it, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but I was significantly let down by this one.
Mm.
They tried almost too hard to be almost like a shot for shot remake of the original one.
Oh, that's
It's
weird.
like if you're trying to just remake the old one by, copying the old one, why not just leave the old one the way it was? And the part that gets me is this is only part one, and there's two more parts still coming.
Hmm.
And I was like, they put a lot of twists, and like I don't feel like they stuck the landing that well. I mean, I think if you're a fan of the original, you still should give this new one a try, but it was pretty disappointing,
Yeah.
to say the least.
I'm probably not going to because I don't
That's
want to think
fair.
about strangers coming to my
Yeah,
house.
I don't either. And yeah, they use it looks like they use the same masks from the
Mhm.
original one, but the the bigger male character, he seems to have a bigger part in this one than the last one.
Sorry.
So let's go to your Substack. So, since the last time we talked, you've started a Substack, The Monster of
Yeah.
the Week. Why don't we talk a little bit about that for those that don't know?
Okay. So I started the Substack because we all do. I don't know if you do a newsletter, but I was doing a newsletter and it's just exhausting. You're like, I want to like connect with people in a meaningful way and let them know what I'm
Yeah.
doing. So I decided to move it over to Substack because I just thought it'd be a fun place to do some short fiction, instead of
Sure.
just the regular newsletter. And so
Mhm.
I picked Monster of the Week. And I started out that I write from Necro's perspective, which is the Book of the Dead from the Mary Shelley School for Monsters.
Yeah.
And so I thought, oh, it'd be fun. It's like his journals of all the monsters that he's met with. And he will be able, or it's not even a he, sorry. Necro's a she in my book. I'm just misgendering her. I didn't mean,
Yeah.
but so it's the idea that the story is being told kind of from Necro's perspective in the beginning. And we go through different monsters. So we'll talk about some real things about the monsters. Like so if I haven't done the Mothman, I'll do cryptids too, but like if I was to do the Mothman, I did the Dogman this summer, and that's a famous cryptid from
Mhm.
Michigan. So I'll do one post which is about the Mothman, the Dogman and the history behind it, and then Necro will be kind of like, oh, but here's this thing you don't really know, which is kind of fiction, right? And so I play with nonfiction and fiction a little bit. And then if I really liked that monster and I did research and I think of a short story about them, I will then write a short story, a horror story
Cool.
about them. Whether it is like a folk tale, like an additional folk tale, scary story about them that's not part of their actual, just connects with it, but it's not real. Or like a genuinely just a horror short that I'll write. So yeah, it's been fun. And
That's cool.
I don't always write from Necro's perspective because that kind of put me in a box for it gets to a point where I'm like, okay, I can't always be writing from her perspective. So
Yeah.
yeah, and it is a way to also explore the monsters that show up in the graphic novel, so I can explore like the new monsters, the old monsters, and I can do short stories about characters that are in the graphic novel that I can't do with art because it just gets so expensive. So I can
Oh
share
yeah.
the more backstory. So I've got like a short story for um, the new characters of the Killing Stone that I'm doing. And so it's like we talk about Nari, who's a grudge spirit. We talk about Tamamo no Mae, which is a nine-tailed fox from Japanese folklore. And so yeah, just and I've found a really cool horror community on Substack. And so what's great about that is I usually send something out Monday or Tuesday, and then Friday I send up something more science fiction-y because I like to write science fiction too.
Yeah.
And it just kind of gives me a way to say, here's some content that you might find interesting. You can read a short story. And then also, this is what I'm doing this week. If you guys are going to be at LA Comic Con or you're going to be here, So yeah, it goes pretty
Yeah, that's really cool.
good.
I've kind of dabbled with the idea of wanting to do some kind of a newsletter or something, just, like you said, to kind of get out and get a little bit more personal, kind of share stuff that's going on,
Yeah.
off camera. I haven't got a chance to play around with it that much, but it looks kind of cool, and I like how they have the the elements of social media without actually being social media
Yeah.
because you know as well as I do that social media kind of sucks right now. I mean,
Hmm.
especially with the election coming up, it kind of just it's just a super big bummer. So anywhere that I can go that I can still kind of be sociable without all the negativity and all of the just the really awful stuff going on, that's
And,
two thumbs up for me.
well, that's why I like Substack because right now
Yeah,
there's no ads on it.
that's
That'll
even better.
it'll eventually change. It hasn't
Yeah,
changed yet. They had some drama with like and the leaders of it or the people who run it have to slowly evolve. Like I know they had some issues at the beginning because these guys never want to censor anything. They're always like
yeah,
they all say the same thing and then they get in trouble. So they
yeah.
were kind of doing that a year ago and all the writers and people on Substack came down on them hard. And I think they kind of revised everything. And but yeah, you can still find the negativity on Substack, but I haven't found it for the
That's
most
good.
part. No one's really talking about. I mean, obviously, if I followed all the news Substacks, and that's if I was coming to Substack for my news, it would be different because
Yeah,
you can do that.
sure.
There's all different kinds of Substacks, obviously. I'm primarily in kind of engaging in just the fiction part of it over there, which is interesting. It's just a little different. And so
That's cool.
just getting to know some of the horror writers on there, some of the sci-fi writers on there, and yeah, and the comics people too, but there's not as
Yeah,
many. Yeah.
that's true.
So
Not yet. There seems like every day I see another comics person getting together and getting Substacks going, which is cool.
well, the
You
part about
know,
Substack that's different than a I don't know if it's different than Medium or these other it's kind of part blog, part social media,
yeah,
part newsletter. And the thing about it is people can subscribe to you off the platform. And so while you're writing your newsletter and you're sending it to people who've already subscribed, other people every week are subscribing
yeah,
without you having to, this is going to get in the weeds for people listening, but just without you having to like, go subscribe to me, check out my thing. They just like, oh, it's Monster of the Week. That sounds cool. And someone else will have shared your thing and they're like, oh, I'm going to
yeah,
subscribe. And so you kind of do that and you mutually, you can find things. And then I can actually go to the platform and it's not just about me. I can read someone else. I can,
yeah.
it's a good balance.
And I
Yeah.
know that, I saw something somewhere Russell Nolte had mentioned, um,
Yeah.
because I can't have a podcast with you without talking about Russell
I
from
mean, it's just
what I
it's a
found.
rule.
It's
It's a
true.
rule.
It's true. That newsletters are kind of going the way they're going extinct, kind of going away. They're not as effective as they used to be. And I
Probably
think
not.
I think Substack is definitely a good evolution from, what the old newsletter used to be, because now you don't have to spend a ton of time curating an email list of, all your different subscribers, because it kind of just does all that for you. Plus, like you said, you don't have to go out and say, "Hey, subscribe to me," because,
Yeah.
you've got other people that are going to see your stuff just organically, and they'll either come to you or they won't.
Yeah. It's true.
So it kind of just does all the work for you.
Yeah, and then you can still like get people, when you go to a show, you can get a list and you add them in there, and then
Yeah.
they can be part of it or they cannot. It's
Yeah.
like they're like, okay, I don't want to do this, and they just cannot keep, do the double authentication or whatever you do. And
Yeah.
I like it. It took me a while to get over there because I wanted to decide what I was gonna do,
Sure.
and it was like, what will bring me joy? What is the thing that's most likely to bring me joy if I try to do it on the weekly? And
Yeah.
it's writing about monsters, you guys. It's really embarrassing, but true. And sci-fi. But that's not really monster of the week, but I do my Plastic Girl book.
Yeah.
I'm doing the audible for that, and we'll see. I like it. I recommend it if it's something you're trying to get into. I also recommend finding the community there because then I think what have helped me with Substack right away was that I came in and there was this Macabre Monday group that was starting to write horror on Mondays, which was when I was doing Monster of the Week. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And so I just started reading all of them, being in that group. Not like, we're all best friends, but like it's a supportive group. We read each other, we share stuff when we like it. And it was just enough of a support system to when you first enter a situation so that you were like, oh, it's meaningful for me to come back here because I'm engaging. And so I always suggest figuring out where that group is that like matches what you're doing and try to communicate with them, because
Yeah.
makes it a little easier at the beginning when it's like you feel like you're talking into the void.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have the same problem where it's something I kind of want to do. I just can't figure out exactly what my thing is going to be just yet.
Yeah.
I just need to sit and take the time and do it because I think once I figure it out, it's gonna click and it's gonna be something pretty cool. But
Well, they have an Audible and video. You can do just your audio of this. You could just, so you should look into it because you can do audible content, audio book content or
that's
a
cool.
podcast. You can do podcasts on there. And it goes right to Spotify, I think. I'm not doing that right to Spotify, but I'm just,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah, I that's kind of a cool idea. I think I want to do something writing though, just because
Oh, okay.
I've been slacking as a writer, and so I
Got
kind of
it.
want to give myself a reason to get back and get back in the pattern of trying to become a writer again like I used to be.
Well, it's
So
a good, yeah, it's good accountability.
yeah,
Because you say, I'm going to do it this many, you make some rule for yourself and you tell
yeah,
everybody, and then you try to do it.
yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So, speaking of your new book, The Killing Stone, I was actually watching our previous interview back and you were talking about it, but you really couldn't say much about it yet. So I'm very excited to hear about it.
Yeah.
Um, so coming off of the first book, Mary Shelley's School for Monsters, La Llorona in the Machine, we
Hmm.
now are back with Mary Shelley's School for Monsters, The Killing Stone. So for those that aren't familiar with the book, why don't we take a minute to talk about the new book?
Okay. So the new book is book two of Mary Shelley's School for Monsters, and the crew is going to Japan. They have to track down, they're trying to find Dr. M again. I'm going to start over. Sorry.
You're good. You're
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Um, so in the beginning of the Killing Stone, Shell and Frank are taking Dr. M. They've captured him. They've escaped. They've captured him. It's back in time before the school even started. And they're taking him to the Japan, and there's this cursed rock there called the Killing Stone. And they have a plan to put him in it. They're gonna do a spell with Necro, and they're gonna basically banish him from this earth and put him in this rock. Well, the folklore of that rock, it's an actual real rock in Japan, is that there's a demon trapped in that rock. And it's was Tamamo no Mae, the nine-tailed fox, is one of the stories that gets told about it.
Mhm.
So we kind of do a thing in the prologue where they're trying to get rid of Dr. M, but his ally and friend is Tamamo no Mae. Um, they've convinced her to betray him and join them, and they were all going to try to trap him in the rock, but something goes wrong and traps both Dr. M and the nine-tailed fox in the rock. Shell and Frank, our heroes, think that she is gone forever, and that brings us into the full graphic novel. Now we're in the present. That's like the prologue. I did spoil the prologue, guys, but it's already out, so I'm
Yeah.
um so in the modern time at the school, they have a new student who's a grudge spirit, Nari, and she can track grudges. She's causing a lot of havoc at the school because everyone's grudge, I mean, she just enhances everyone's anger basically when she's around them.
Yeah.
And she specifically has a problem with Shell, our main character and headmistress, because Shell is carrying around this monster-sized grudge, which I'm not going to get into, but she can't be around Shell. But
Okay.
they need her for this mission to find Tamamo no Mae to track down Dr. M again.
Gotcha.
Um, so anyways, I've given a long kind of version. So the whole story is that they are going to go to Japan and try to reason with Tamamo no Mae, try to rescue her, try to separate her from Dr. M, and then meanwhile they have to like resolve all these bad feelings between each other. So it's a lot about forgiveness, like what's forgivable, what's not forgivable, who a grudge really hurts, Is it you? Is it the other person? So there's a lot of playing around with that. And yeah, so I just gave you the really long kind of weird pitch, but
That's okay.
that's the story. And I had a lot of fun drawing it, not drawing it, writing it. And Anna Wisecheck, so again, she was from book one. She's doing book two. We're probably doing book three together is the plan.
Nice.
We just finished the last page of art for the Killing Stone today. She sent it to
Very
me.
cool.
And so that means the guys are already lettering it, and we're in the middle of the Kickstarter for it. So yeah, it's really coming together. I'm really excited about it. La Llorona, the first book, won a book award last year for best graphic novel.
You did.
Um,
Congrats, by the way.
Thank you. And it got
Yeah.
nominated and was a finalist in another one. And so it was really exciting to have some recognition of that story and what I'm trying to do with monsters in general and with this IP, and then and then so we're just like, I love La Llorona. I think it's great. This one I'm just so excited about. I love it just as much. And it's just really fun to explore these monsters, from different mythologies, different folklore, and
Yeah.
doing this kind of thing. Yeah. I'm trying to have some fun with it.
It was such a cool book. I'm so excited for this new one because the way you ended the last one was just such a unique, creative way to end it that
Hmm.
I'm really excited for this new one.
Oh, thanks.
So when it came to, taking the crew to Japan, how did you, because with all of the different monsters out there, how did you decide that in book two we're going to take the crew to Japan?
So there's two answers to this.
Okay,
Um, so the cursed rock is part of it. The Sessoseko is what it's called, and it's this cursed rock that's in Japan. And right when I was working on the script of this, starting the outline of it, my husband Mike sends me this article, and I think it was in March of 1920, it was 2021 or something. The rock broke in half. And everyone, and I just saw couple articles like, has the demon escaped, this rock? And I was like, that's so interesting.
yeah,
I'm fascinated by that. And so
absolutely.
I researched that for a while. Also Anna really wanted to explore monsters from that area because I asked her before I started writing the second book. Because I know I have this whole thing outlined, like what my main characters are going to do throughout all these books.
Sure.
But for the actual monsters, it's a little bit, I can be a little more loose. So I really like, and you can't really, once you go from, like, you've got La Llorona, who's such a epic character from Mexican folklore, and then
Sure.
Tamamo no Mae, equally as epic. And I am
Yeah.
very drawn to those female characters that are being blamed for, like, Tamamo no Mae is like constantly being blamed for what these great men, these evil deeds these great men did. They were possessed by her. She influenced them. They were ambitious and wanted power, and so she came in and seduced them and made them do these awful torturous things. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
just, once I started, I knew about her, and then once I started really reading about her, I knew that I wanted to do that. And I love I had to do a vengeful, wrathful spirit. So I've got Nari. And yeah, and my parents lived in Japan for a while. I was actually conceived in Japan, so it's like
Oh,
a fun
nice.
place to, yeah, it's a fun place to go. I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't actually been to Japan, but I meant in my imagination, you know. Um, but yeah, so I would say the two things were the reason we finally landed on those characters were because of that rock and that stone, and then because Anna's in my conversation about our influences and things like that. So,
Very cool. Well, I
mhm.
was checking out some of the art from the Kickstarter and it looks incredible. I cannot wait to read the book. It's so cool.
Oh, great.
So speaking of the Kickstarter, you always have a lot of really cool add-ons and extras and stretch goals. Why don't we take
Mhm.
a minute to talk about some of those?
Okay. So right now we're just ending up the first week. So a lot of what I do is, there's usually a package where you can get the graphic novel. It's hardcover. It's beautiful. Anna did the cover. And we usually have a campaign enamel pin. So this time it is the blue kitsune, glow in the dark pin, which is Tamamo Anome in fox form. So it's a nine-tailed fox, very cute. There's a blue one that comes with in some of the packages, and it's the official campaign one, but there's also a white one that's different, and we're only making 100 of
Nice.
them. So we just put that up today. It's the rare kitsune.
Nice.
Um, and so we usually have a campaign sticker. One of my favorite, um, one of the tiers I like is, besides the special thanks tier, which I think is perfect. If you're just like, I want to get the book, I want to get the pin, I want to get special thanks in the book, that's the best. Just go for that, and then you can add
Yeah.
on anything else. If you haven't read the book, you can get both the books and both the pins from each campaign, or you can just get both the books. I do have one that's a holiday gift one, which is the only one that's going to go out in December. So if you haven't read La Llorona, the first book, or you have like a monster lover, because this book is basically for 8 and up. So if you have someone you need to buy for Christmas, I have a holiday tier where we wrap up all the La Llorona goodies, like the stickers, the pin, the book. We wrap it up all nice. We write a letter from the characters from the book, and then a letter from the giver, and then we mail it out in time for the holidays. So that is a great
Awesome.
one
That is
and a great way
awesome.
to introduce it to it, because What I have found, because I have my own nieces and kids, is
Hmm.
this is a gift. I've always had a gift tier. Kids really like this book. Like, like middle school and up. Like it's been if they're into monsters, if they like Monster High, if they like Wednesday, if they like any of the monster shows, they're gonna like it.
Yeah.
And so it's like fun. Um, and then I have other I'm sorry if the cough drop.
Oh, you're good.
But I have like other tiers, but I think really when you're going into this and if you don't know those series, like the basic graphic novel ones, I do the special thanks one if you have to have a pin because it's a great pin. I love it. I'm very excited
Yeah.
about it. And then the holiday one. If you're like I like monsters, but I like dark and scary and murder, I don't want nice monsters because mine are nice, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, then a gift is a great idea. And takes it off. I'm a parent. I'm like, it takes one off the list and it's nice and it's personal. It's gonna be
There you
personal.
go.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I know that, speaking of gifts, my oldest daughter told my wife today, for my big Christmas gift, this is what I want. And it just so happens to be something I just ordered. So I was like, yes, check that off the list. It's
I did
done.
it. I did it. Now I just gotta hide it.
Right?
Yep.
Very cool. So I just lost my train of thought.
That's all right.
Um, So yeah, I'm very excited. There's lots of cool stuff. If you're into monsters, like Jess said, if you've got kids who like Monster High, like my kids do, well, my oldest kid used to. She's too cool for Monster High now, but my youngest one is super big into Monster High right now.
Well, that's why I say Scooby-Doo and Wednesday too, because that kind
Yeah,
of stuff. It's all that the Winchester brothers, but this
yeah,
is but we're not going to kill any monsters on this one for the
yeah,
most
for
part.
sure.
Yeah.
It's a super fun book. You know,
Hmm.
I I've said several times already, I'm not super big into horror, but I really like monsters. I like the classic Universal monsters. Um,
Hmm.
And I like reading young adult stuff, and because sometimes it's more fun than the stuff that's written for grown-ups, because the stuff written for grown-ups is way too serious
It's
sometimes.
so
So,
cynical
right?
sometimes.
Sometimes you have to take a little bit of a palate cleanser and pick up
Yeah.
a young adult book, and it's going to be worth every minute of it. It's
Hmm.
like Jessica said, it's an award-winning book. It's so good. Make sure you check out the first one if you haven't yet. Make sure you get on the list to get number two, because number two, I have no doubt, is going to be just as good, if not better, than the first one.
Thank you.
So the Kickstarter goes until November 1st. You got a couple weeks left. Make sure you go and check it out. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell everybody, because everyone needs to know about this book. So after this, what do you have coming up next that you
Um,
can talk about?
well, after this, I've been working on some pilots, so that's not coming out.
Sure.
After I am working on an adult graphic novel.
Okay.
So I'm putting together, it's definitely gonna be inspired by a vampire character from a certain mythology.
Okay.
Um, I really liked The Devil Wears My Face that came out of Mad Cave. Just
David Pepos.
yeah.
Good stuff.
And yeah. And then I, read The Witches, which was an older one by
Mhm.
yeah, Sc Scott Snyder, yeah. And then so I've been working on figuring out, the artist I'm interested in, putting the whole thing together. So I am working on that, but that is going to be a while.
Okay.
So I don't know what's next because I'm so all in right now with this, and
That's fair.
so we'll see. Nothing exact. I don't have anything I can announce yet. Is really
Okay.
where I'm at. Yeah, yeah. But
Fair enough.
yeah.
And that's kind of where you were last time with book two.
Yeah, well, actually, I know not that you can get it. I know that the guys did a Kickstarter for it, but I do have a short story coming out in the 3D
Yes, I was going to mention.
Nightmare. Yeah,
Yeah.
Nightmare Theater. And that one, I know that they're going to send that to readers soon that did the Kickstarter, which means it'll be available to everybody at some point. And Mark Mechtel, who I do a lot of short horror with, and we did the Pistol series together. He and I did a short inspired by Argus from Greek mythology.
Oh, nice.
And you can actually in Monster of the Week, if you go on my site and look up Argus, I did a little story there, like a little, it's kind of the quintessential Monster of the Week where I tell you who Argus is, I tell you the history through Necro's viewpoint, and then I give you a little. I always find what's frustrating when you go into Greek mythology and you read about the monsters. you get like these like three paragraphs, or three
Yeah.
sentences if you're lucky, and then sometimes there's no other information. And I found Argus to be one of those characters. He didn't have a ton of information about him.
Yeah.
So I like wrote a story for him about maybe how he got these eyes that's different than the version that everyone tells. And so it's fun. But the actual short story that Mark and I did, based, inspired by that, is a modern story about AI, an AI named Argus,
Oh,
because of all
nice.
the hundred eyes and
Yeah.
yeah, and it's a fun trope of the AI that gets out of control. So it's definitely in that realm.
Very cool.
Yep.
And I actually just finished one of the books, not in the Percy Jackson original series, but the series that comes after.
Hmm.
I just finished book 4. I think it was called The House of Hades. I can't remember that particular series
Does
name,
it
but
have Nico in it?
yes,
Okay, well that's a fan favorite, Nico.
he was good. And I you
Yeah,
brought up Argus, and that's the name of the boat. They were on the Argus too.
yeah.
So I'm like,
Oh
oh,
yeah,
that
cool.
made that connection in my brain. But yeah, Nico,
Yeah,
going completely off topic. Yes,
that's all right.
Nico's a very, very in-depth, very he's a great character. I can't wait to
He
see more from him.
he's my daughter's favorite character, and
He's fantastic.
you cannot argue with her on that front. You brought up my daughter's favorite series.
It's
Percy.
it's
Yeah.
so good because going back to the young adult stuff, the
Hmm.
original Percy Jackson series was so good. Like
Yeah.
I don't
I read it with her, so I know
I
that.
don't I don't buy a lot of books anymore, but that was when I went to a bookstore and they had the entire set for like 20 bucks. I'm like, I'm taking this
Yeah.
because that's a series that I would read over and over again because it's just that good. And so I decided to kind of go beyond that because they've got the series that comes after that. And I've been slowly working my way through that one because the books are significantly bigger
Yeah.
than the Percy Jackson books. So, but it's been a good series to check out.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like it
Yeah,
too.
for sure. It's
I
I
haven't read
haven't
as far as you have read, and I keep getting yelled at by Eva to read more.
Oh, it's taken me forever to get as far as I am now. And my daughter actually yelled at me because I got them from the library. And she's like, I have them in my room. You can have them whenever you want. And I'm like, well, sure, but you have to find them, and that's the problem. I didn't want to wait to find them. I'll just have the
True.
library get it for me. But
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
I think it was been a year actually. I looked between when I read number 3 and when I just finished number 4. And those books are humongous. They're super good. They just take forever to read. So
Yeah.
I don't blame you for not getting farther than you are. Because it took
Yeah.
me a long time to get where I'm at right now.
Well, and she started reading to herself. Like we used to read things together. And
Yeah.
so as somewhere in the series, she's like, I'm gonna read ahead, Mom. This is taking too long. And then I didn't do the same. So I'm in trouble. I mean, and I liked all of them that I read. They
Yeah.
were really good. Yeah.
Yeah. They're
We watched
super
the
good.
shows and everything. Yeah.
I've watched the original movies, but I haven't watched the new series yet. And I
Yeah.
very disappointed by the movies. Like they were entertaining, but
The
they
series is better.
I've heard that and I'm very
Yeah.
excited. And I'm kind of a big fan of professional, not kind of. I'm a huge fan of professional wrestling. So the
Hmm.
fact that Aries in the series is played by a pro wrestler.
Yeah.
I was like, yep, sign me up because
That's really funny.
he's one of my favorite wrestlers. So I need to watch it. We just haven't gotten around to it yet because there's so much stuff to consume right
They're really, it's too much.
now.
And I just read one that probably was a Rick Riordan Presents one with Iris that had like a WWF thing going on. I think it was by
Hmm.
Cervantes. And what was it called?
A lot,
It was in
a lot of
Mayan.
those, a lot of those are really, really good ones. The Rick
Yeah, they're super
presents.
good. Yeah.
I've not read all of them, but I've read a ton of them. The Sal and Gabby Fix the Universe.
Mm.
So, so good.
Oh yeah. I haven't read that one.
It's
Yeah,
real good.
he's pretty good at that
Yeah.
picking. Yeah, I've read a couple too with Iris and they're pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, I've been trying to keep track of all of them because there's just so many different ones, but
Hmm.
they've been really good. I've been really
Yeah.
impressed. All right, well, where can we actually we don't want to go that far just yet. I want to ask you before I wrap that
Okay.
up. Usually I like to ask about a bit of advice for creatives, but I would like to ask you this time since I asked you last time to give advice to creatives. This time I want to see if I can get a piece of advice from you about running a Kickstarter.
Okay.
Just for other people out there who are wanting to run Kickstarters or people who are running Kickstarters who, because there, I don't know much about Kickstarters other than just sharing the crap out of them, but
Yeah.
I'm sure that, other than Russell, who seems to be a Kickstarter pro, uh,
Hmm.
it seems like no matter what you learn about Kickstarter, you can never learn enough about Kickstarter.
No,
So
because it constantly changes.
yeah,
Kickstarter, the platform itself just evolves, and it's
sure.
right now it continuously adds new functions and new ways of doing it. I
Yeah.
think, you know, the one thing you want to do is like, why am I coming to Kick? Why does this project need to be on a crowdfunding platform? What's the reason to come to Kickstarter? There are some really good reasons. Like there's a whole audience on Kickstarter, especially if you write novels or comics. There's a
Yeah.
built-in audience of people who like to support those projects on Kickstarter. So that's a really good reason to come to Kickstarter. Like if you have a indie project that you think you can make happen, you want to come there. You want to know, I think it's very important to know that you are going to be able to bring some people to the platform, not just rely on the platform. I think a mistake that gets made sometimes is that someone has like a $2,000 project, not even a very high amount, but it
Mhm.
is, I mean, and
Yeah.
you put it up there and they haven't, they don't have a newsletter. They haven't told anybody about it ahead of time. Like Kickstarter has this really great function that if you put in all the information about your project and you get it all certified, and because you have to, there is a whole thing you have to do, and then you can, before you launch a project, you can do this notify to launch page, and that's a pre-launch page. And so if you don't have like a newsletter or a big following on social media or a bunch of people that are going to be rabid and be like, I have to get this,
Yeah.
um, you can put that up like 3 months ahead of time and start sharing it in different places and start getting people to follow your project so that on the day one when you launch, those people will get an email that says you're launching. Um, Other than that, I have lots of advice. I just did a
Cool.
talk on this with
No
Madeline.
worries. Yeah, please.
Other than that, I think like, and I'm just talking from a comics perspective right now because
Okay.
that's the only thing I crowdfund.
Sure.
Um, I think that you want to go on the platform long before you start setting up your Kickstarter and look for projects that are similar to your project and follow them. And not only that, maybe back them. Now, if you don't have a ton of money, you can back a project for like $1 just to support
Yeah.
it. And then you're just one of the backers. And that's actually helpful to the creator as well because it's just another backer and it helps with the whole, whatever internal communication is going on with the robots in there, right?
Yeah.
So back some projects that are like yours, follow them, listen to them, see how they do it because there's a whole internal structure. Like you're doing updates, you're communicating to backers, you're going to be able to watch the campaign and learn from them and see what they do, see what they offer, see what seems to be working. You can actually look at their tiers and see how many people are backing different tiers and if those tiers are working, like what's too much. You can get an idea of what, like if you're doing a comic, what do people in comics, what extras do people in comics like, you
Yeah.
know? And do people like enamel pins? Yeah, they do. I mean, I'm not even a big enamel pin people, but
Yeah.
like there are lots of people who do really like them.
And stickers.
And stickers, people like stickers. Obviously, if you're a novelist, people like these metal big bookmarks. Madeline, Holly Rosen is doing a Kickstarter. She has these really great bookmarks. People like that. So I would like find some of the people who are successfully launching campaigns consistently and check them out. But you got to back projects. I mean,
Oh, for sure.
you can't just jump on, you don't have to, but like Kickstarter is a community place. And so if
Mhm.
you're part of the community, you're going to have a better time launching. I
Yeah.
know that if someone asks me to cross promote with them or if they ask me to somehow help or reach out to me and I look at their profile and see that they haven't backed any projects, I'm kind of like, well, it depends. Like if they're brand new and it's one thing, but like
Yeah.
if it's that they're just here, it's that it is a community place and you don't have to spend a ton of money to support people and
Yeah.
share their projects and so I do think that those are two important things and there's a lot more advice that I could give, but I'm still learning. I mean
Yeah.
also figure out your budget before you go on Kickstarter
Yeah.
because what you don't want to do is say, I'm going to do this book for this much money and I'm going to get it to you. And you haven't priced anything out, excuse me, and then you lose money because then that's sad for you. So don't do that. Don't
Because
lose
you have
money.
you have to end up pulling it out of your own pocket, and then
Yeah.
the project gets delayed and delayed and delayed. Like I've seen Kickstarters who
Yeah.
I think, that I've personally backed that, we're 2, 3, 4 years out from when the
Hmm.
Kickstarter ended and we still have nothing yet. So it
Yeah.
happens all the time. And I like your advice about, getting out early and promoting. Like I just recently, back in August, did an interview with a guy who started the pre-launch for his Kickstarter that doesn't launch till January. So he
Yeah.
gives him plenty of time to get out there, beat the pavement and get the word out on his book. And his book is incredible. So I'm excited for that to come out. And also, you mentioned it. I was going to mention it, but you mentioned it before I did, where, if you go and check out someone's Kickstarter, if you see that, the amount they've created doesn't matter really to me. But like you said, if you look at the amount that they've backed and
Yeah.
it's significantly low, you're like, okay, either this person's relatively new or, this person, you know, y whatever about them.
Yeah, and you make judgments.
Yeah,
Judgments coming, but I mean, it doesn't have to be crazy high. It just has to
right.
show that every once in a while you back a project
Yeah,
because you like this platform and
right.
you believe in this platform. And like for me, it wasn't that hard because I did Kickstarter as a person who got things on Kickstarter before I ever did a Kickstarter.
Sure.
So for me, it was fine because I'm like, oh, I've already backed a bunch of people because that's
Oh yeah.
why I came here. Well, because it's
Yeah.
like people come to Kickstarter because they want a certain kind of story, like for books and comics, anyways. They
Sure.
want a story. They either come because they know a creator that they love that's come on the platform, or
Yeah.
there's a certain kind of story that isn't told enough for them in the mainstream, and they can find it in a lot of like even mainstream artists come to Kickstarter to make their quirky projects too,
Yeah.
and I do
And
think
that's
like
a whole other discussion too. When the
yeah, that's a
mainstream
whole
people
other
come,
discussion. Yeah, yeah.
oh boy.
I mean, I don't mind long as it's like it's a little of this and that, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It does bring more people to the platform, but yeah, sometimes you're like, why do you have to do it? But I think it does
Yeah.
help the platform mainly to have
I agree.
people, yeah. And so anyway, so that's my advice for that. And I mean, I will probably someday bring a novel project to Kickstarter. I mean, I will because I've actually got, I don't know if we've ever talked about it, but I got my Plastic Girl series, which is started out as a novella and is now a trilogy, which is out and on retailers. Like it's available online
Yeah.
anywhere. You can order it and get it at the library. But like, I thought, oh, I'd like to, maybe sometime do a new cover, like something really exciting with the cover and,
Yeah.
get more people and do something like but you like for me, I won't do it until I can figure out like what is the cool thing I want to do. I know there's something I want to do with it. It's like what is it going to be? And so it's like I think a lot of it is like planning that ahead, like really knowing
Sure.
what you're trying to do
Hmm.
before you do it because
Yeah.
it's a lot of work.
Oh,
Kickstarter's
for
not
sure.
putting it, I think it's not just putting it on the platform and hoping that you know, Kickstarter itself will make sure everyone sees your project. There's a little bit of
Right.
that. They are giving you visibility, but you have to be communicating all the time. And it's
Oh
so,
yeah.
I mean, I'm just in week one. I'm pretty tired. It is,
I'm
listen to me, I'm
sure.
coughing. I'm
Yeah.
slowly dying. I'm okay. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but no, for sure. It's like, yeah, that's I don't know. I don't want to go on and on about Kickstarter because I could because
Nope.
I'm in the because
I got
whenever I'm
you.
in the middle of a campaign, I
Yeah.
can talk about Kickstarter way too long
Sure.
for sure. Yeah.
No worries.
But
Well,
yeah.
no worries. Well, what we'll say now is then, where can people check you out to keep up to date with stuff coming from you as we can see what's coming in the future?
Okay. So there's a for whatever you like to do, I have a website called wickedtreepress.com. You can always subscribe there as one of my subscribers, and I do a list through there. You'll see my shop and you'll be able to figure out all the books I have. You can find me Wicked Tree Press on either Facebook or Instagram. You can of course find me on Substack, my favorite, Monster of the Week, and you can subscribe to me there for free. And yeah, and then if you just want to go check out my books, you can find my prose books anywhere. You just search for them, Plastic Girl or Mary Shelley School for Monsters on Kickstarter right now and at my website. So yeah, that's how you can find me.
Very cool. And make sure you check out Mary Shelley's School for Monsters, The Killing Stone on Kickstarter right now till November 1st. We'll make sure we put the link in the comments and we'll get it shared out so everyone knows where to find it. Now, for me, I want to first thank Polygon Horizon. Their song Pizza Force is the theme song for the show. It's a great song. Go check them out on Bandcamp and show them some love. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram just at Fueled by Weird. You can shoot me an email at fueledbyweird@gmail.com. You can find me on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And now you can also find me on the Spotlight Media GA app, along with the rest of the Stay Weird Network shows, the Nerdy Man Room show with Hassel and Monster, Hassel's Review, and Big Rob's House of Entertainment and No Chinese Food. Now, Stay Weird Network is a brand new podcast network dedicated to bringing some awesome back to the internet. You can check us out on YouTube at Stay Weird Network. You can check us out on Instagram at Stay Weird Network. You can shoot us an email at stayweirdmedia@gmail.com. Sorry, that was Stay Weird Media, not Stay Weird Network. Apologize. And you can also check, I also want to thank the Zone Collectibles in Tifton, Georgia. They're the sponsor for the show. They are your one-stop shop for comics, collectibles, and so much more. So if you're in Tifton, go check out the Clady Clan at the Zone. And if you like the show, please leave a review and tell your friends because word of mouth is my friend. And remember, kids, life's too short to be normal, so stay weird. Jessica, thanks so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.